Hello everyone, I greet you in the name of God Almighty. My name is Apostle Nathan Silas, and today we have a very interesting video to react to, and this one says that the gospel of Barnabas, that Judas is crucified and not Jesus, and Muhammad is the Messiah. Okay, I believe that this is gonna be a very interesting video. Checking this out, and I hope that all of us who are watching me and listening to this video are all going to learn from this. So guys, if today happens to be the first time of you checking out my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on my Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section and I'm going to check it out. So guys, before we get on to the video, I'm a theologian and I made this video not to discredit anyone's religion. This is basically for educational purposes, and I believe that at the end of this video we all are going to learn from this. So let's get down to this video and check this out.
So Dr. Blackhurst is back to History Valley podcast, and today he is going to be talking about the Gospel of Barnabas. And I happen to have it right here in my library, my copy of the Gospel of Barnabas. And it says all kinds of strange things.
It does.
Judas Iscariot was crucified instead of Jesus. And that's really strange. And I definitely have plenty of questions for you about the Gospel of Barnabas. But before we even touch on Judas Iscariot, when does this thing date? There is a huge divide in scholarship about when this book was written. It is agreed by all scholars it definitely dates centuries after the New Testament was composed, many centuries.
Yes.
But when exactly?
Yeah, okay. That's a very difficult question. It appears the extant text is from, it's fairly late, it's from the 1590s. The 1590s is when it appears. So it's counted in biblical areas as modern apocrypha. It's a modern book, but the text itself tells us clearly contains material that seems to be from the 1300s. There's certainly some material that seems to be, you could date from that. So the time of composition seems to be much earlier. But then it's also a composite document. It's clearly a composite document. It's been woven together from earlier materials. And the dates of those earlier materials is very, very difficult to establish. And some of it is certainly medieval, and I refer to the Gospel of Barnabas as a medieval work. It's the medieval Gospel of Barnabas. And that's to distinguish it from any ancient Gospel of Barnabas. I think that there was an ancient Gospel of Barnabas, and it's very difficult to say what the relationship is between that ancient work and the work that we now have, except to say that they're not one and the same, and that the ancient Gospel of Barnabas is thoroughly lost. We don't have any trace of it whatsoever. Although we do have two references to it. So I think it did exist. Some people think it didn't because we just don't have anything of it. But on complicating that is the fact that some people, particularly Muslim polemicists, will tell you that the Gospel of Barnabas as we have it is the ancient Gospel of Barnabas, and therefore it's an ancient work and it goes back to the apostles, to the apostolic age. I think that that's an entirely unsustainable point of view, but you'll get it in religious debates.
I've heard that you found out who actually wrote the Gospel of Barnabas that we have. Is that true? Do we know who wrote our version of the Gospel of Barnabas?
Yeah, we know who put it together.
Okay.
We know who, or let's say we know who brought it into the public domain, and we know why he brought it into the public domain, and we know that he prepared the two existing copies for a particular purpose, and that's why they have survived. We also know that he is responsible for writing the preface that goes with the Spanish version. And but whether he is responsible for writing it or having it written seems unlikely to me. It's much earlier material. He may have had it composed from existing material, but I don't think so. I think it was a pre-existing document that he's dressed up.
So who is this person?
Yeah, this person is Cardinal Santorio.
Hmm.
His name is Santorio. He's a bishop in that particular period, and we know his motives, and we know what happened. You can work it out. I spent years putting it together, but you can work it out. And of course, once you see it, it becomes very obvious what happened. Cardinal Santorio was, he worked for the Inquisition. He was an inquisitor, and a very powerful one. And he worked for King Philip of Spain. And the context here is that he was cheated out of the papacy. He lost the papacy by 1 vote. And as an inquisitor, what he decided to do was to weaponize an existing, I think this is what happened, he decided to weaponize an existing heretical document to incriminate his enemies and to protect himself too. He has particular motives. We can work it out very carefully. The 2 documents were prepared for King Philip of Spain. I think that, I think that that's very clear.
So he's on an emotional rampage trying to say, well, you guys got it all wrong. It was Judas Iscariot that was crucified. It says it here right in this text I'm showing you. Oh, look at this. It even predicts that Muhammad is coming.
Yeah, it's because the context of this is wars between Spain and Turkey, with the church, and Italy is sort of the meat in the sandwich in between. So you've got to understand that context. It's a very I think that this document comes into Europe after the Battle of Lepanto. The Battle of Lepanto is one of the most important events in European history. It's when, the dividing line between the Islamic and the European world was redrawn in the 1570s. And I think that the Gospel of Barnabas comes into Europe at that time, but then it's picked up by the Inquisition. And it sits in the property. It's the property of the Inquisition. Although it comes in with other books, and Santorio doesn't have those other books. He only has the Gospel of Barnabas, although he knows where the other books are, but he just can't get at them. That's another motive here. And so what he's got here is probably the most heretical document you could possibly imagine. This is a work of sedition. This is the Islamic gospel. This is a work of a heretic and a turncoat, and a work of apostasy. It's heresy of heresies. It's the hottest piece of heresy Santorio could find. And he writes a preface, and he tries to incriminate his enemies with it. And that's why otherwise we would never have known it. It was in the possession of the Inquisition. But Santorio, it was in the enclave of 1592, the conclave of 1592, rather, the papal election of 1592. Santorio was the Spanish candidate. He was the candidate for King Philip of Spain, and he thought he had it in the bag. He thought he had the votes, and so he went into the conclave expecting to win, and very famously he lost by 1 vote, and he was betrayed in the conclave by the Colonna family, by the Colonna brothers, Marc Antonio Colonna in particular. Ascanio and Marc Antonio Colonna were both cardinals, and they voted against him. They voted him down. He lost the papacy. And so, yeah, in a fit of fury, but also to defend himself. His enemies have just won the papacy. He's got to defend himself. So he pulls out of storage the hottest piece of heresy he could find, and he dresses it up to incriminate his enemies. And that's why it comes into the public domain, and the only reason why it comes into the public domain, and why it seems such a strange book. This is a book we were never supposed to see.
So we got a pretty good idea of where our version of the Gospel of Barnabas came from and the dating of it. As for the ancient version, if you had to give an educated guess as to when the ancient version was written, which century would you place it in?
Yeah, I'd place it in the 5th century, and the place I'd place it is either in Syria or in Cyprus. The Barnabean tradition, the tradition that this material comes out of, you can retrace it from the medieval Gospel of Barnabas. You can retrace that material. It goes from Italy back to Cyprus, and then from Cyprus to Syria. So it's an ancient Syrian tradition, and around about the 4th century and 4th, 5th century, 400s, it goes to Cyprus. And I think in that period is when a Gospel of Barnabas is likely to have been written. And certainly the Acts of Barnabas are written at that time. That book, that's a very important book. And our existing Gospel of Barnabas is written to cater to notices in the Acts of Barnabas, which is part of the Barnabean tradition in the Church of Cyprus. And that then moves into Italy at a later date. Yeah. I think we can trace all of this now.
So the ancient Gospel of Barnabas predates the Quran, and that means the Muhammad prophecy was added in later.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it probably added in there by the guy we just talked about earlier?
That's right. No, that's an interesting question. When did it become a Muslim document? When did it become Islamified? Because it wasn't originally, that's right. The ancient Gospel of Barnabas wasn't about Muhammad, it was before Muhammad. But somehow or other, this sort of material has survived, and it's survived in the Cyprus environment, so that Turkish Cypriot environment. And at some stage it becomes an Islamic document, it becomes an Islamic gospel. And the way that happens, because we can reverse it, we can remove the Islamic layer. You can remove the Islamic stuff from the Gospel of Barnabas. There are scholars who deny that you can do that, but I think that it's very clear that you can do it. For instance, what's originally there, we can work it out. What's originally there is the formation of, the forerunner prophesying the Messiah. You've got John the Baptist prophesying Jesus. That's the one we're familiar with. John the Baptist is the forerunner to the Messiah, who he identifies as Jesus. What they do is someone has just swapped the names here. Someone's just swapped the names. Instead of John, it becomes Jesus, and instead of Jesus, it becomes Muhammad. And you just slot Jesus Muhammad into those roles, forerunner and Messiah, even though that's ill-fitting, because of course Muslims don't believe that Muhammad is the Messiah. That's not an Islamic belief. But somebody has picked this book up and Islamified it. They've turned it into a Muslim gospel. When? It's very hard to say, but I don't think it was Santorio. I don't think it was Cardinal Santorio. It was done before that, and that's why it is such a hot property in his hands, and why he can weaponize it so much. If he can attach that document to his enemies, the Colonna family, then they're in serious trouble. But as it happens, it seems the documents are prepared for King Philip of Spain, and King Philip of Spain doesn't seem to have bought into it because nothing seemed to have happened. The conspiracy is prepared, but it's never deployed.
It's kind of hilarious to me that Muslims use this document as, oh, this is the final proof of the Quran.
Yeah, they do.
But it actually, as you were just bringing up a moment ago, it portrays Muhammad as a Messiah, which actually contradicts the Quran.
Yeah, the author of the Gospel of Barnabas, or whoever's done this, he doesn't actually know very much about Islam. He knows a bit. He knows the prayers. He doesn't know the Quran. There's no evidence in the document that he's familiar with the Quran, and he doesn't really understand Islamic monotheism, and he certainly doesn't understand Islamic prophetology. He doesn't understand. Muhammad's not a Messiah, although there are here and there are small communities of syncretic groups that might propose that, but that's not a mainstream Muslim belief at all. No.
So it seems like the interpolator of the Muhammad stuff was very confused and ignorant.
Yeah, that's right. We can like, if you remove that, let's try to work out what he was like. This author, he's familiar with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but in order. He knows Christianity best, he knows Judaism second best, and he knows Islam third best. So he's very, very good and very familiar with and very adept with the Hebrew scriptures, with Old Testament prophecy, and he knows the Gospels really, really well. I mean, very, very well, to the point that you think he must have scribal. He must be must be very well educated in that area. But when it comes to Islam, he has a second-hand familiarity with Islam. He has, I think you can safely say that he hasn't lived in a Muslim environment for any period of time. So he's a Christian, a Jewish Christian, who has a faulty understanding of Islam. Whether he subscribes to Islam in fact or not is another matter. Whether it's actually written by a convert, that seems to be how it's presented. It's written by a convert. But a lot of converts don't know much about what they're converting to, and they learn over a period of time. In the beginning, he doesn't seem, at the time of writing, he doesn't seem to know very much about Islam.
Well, okay. Well, there. Thank you, Dr. Blackhurst. I think at some point in the future, if I can think of other things to talk about regarding the Gospel of Barnabas, I'd like to do another episode with you in the future on this.
Sure, yeah. That's all right. That's all right, Jacob. Yeah, I'm always happy.
That's a very interesting video, learning about the Gospel of Barnabas, talking about Judas Iscariot is being crucified in place of Jesus Christ, and Prophet Muhammad is the Messiah. Okay. Well, that's a very interesting one. But then what, you understand, I may say is that at what point did they able to understand that the Gospel of Barnabas is true, and why is it that some of the Islamic scholars believe in the Gospel of Barnabas? Is it that because it does not subscribe that Jesus Christ was duly crucified, but rather it was Judas Iscariot that was crucified in place of Jesus? Is that why they subscribe to the Gospels of Barnabas? This will bring a lot of questions, because even the Quran does not specify, you understand, that somebody was crucified in place of Jesus. But I think that the Quran does not in the first place, you understand, subscribe to the crucifixion, and not to even talk about, in a sense, somebody being substitute or not. So I think that it will be better, you understand, to follow what the Quran says. And then, since the Quran says that God saved Jesus Christ, that he was not crucified, so you don't have to accept, you understand, the gospel of Barabbas just because what it says that Jesus was not crucified, but rather Barabbas. Since the Quran did not say that somebody was crucified in his place, then we don't have to force it to be in the Gospels, or neither talks about, in a sense, Prophet Muhammad being the Messiah. Even the Quran have never says that Prophet Muhammad is the Messiah. Rather, the Quran, you understand, either says that what is the messenger of God and not the Messiah of God, just as been stated by the Gospel of Barnabas. Well, we know that, you understand, I was not there in the either in the 5th century or wherever, you understand, this gospel, you understand, was founded. But I want us to understand that we have a lot of antichrists, we have a lot of people who are willing to write everything in order to discredit, you understand, the death of Jesus Christ, which gains salvation for the Christian's faith. Of course, I believe that a lot of people could write a lot of things just to discredit that, and that's why, you understand, we need to be careful of some of these gospel, some of these books, you understand, yeah, to whether Barnabas truly wrote this, we do not know. But one thing, you understand, is for sure, why is it that Paul did not write anything, you understand, concerning that? Because we all know that at some point Barnabas and Paul, you understand, all work together in propagation of the gospel. So what now happened that we do not have anything, you understand, to do with that? Well, anyway, so many questions, in a sense, comes to play when it comes to this, if we are to look at it, in a sense, very critically. But I want to ask my Christian brothers that, did you believe in the gospels of Barnabas? And if yes, then why? I want you to state that at the comment section. And then if you are a Christian, or you are a Catholic, or you are Buddhist or whatever, well, the Buddhists don't really believe, you understand, in these kind of things, but then probably the Judaism, whatever you believe in. If you believe in the gospel of Barnabas, even as a Christian, can you state why you believe in the gospel of Barnabas? I want to learn. I believe that some of us too want to also learn. Just drop that opinion and thought at the comment section. Let's all learn from one another, and if need might be of it, of course, I can compile some of your comment concerning the gospel of Barnabas, and then we all react to it, or and then maybe probably I can come back and then we all discuss it, you understand, together, so that some of you could also hear some of the opinion that people are dropping concerning the gospel of Barnabas. So guys, this is the end of my video. If you like my reaction, you should like, share and subscribe, and if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section and I'm going to check it out. So guys, you remain blessed.